Ravenswatch is a particularly unique take on the familiar conceit of an action roguelike RPG, which puts its cast of heroes at the forefront. Playing as one of 6 hero characters, pulling from stories such as Little Red Riding Hood and the Snow Queen, you'll freely explore an overworld filled with demons and other opportunities to amass power to face off with powerful demons ruling the land. Ravenswatch sticks close to the formula of a dungeon crawl, but it hones that focus more into an adventure game that has a larger goal to accomplish. The main goal is to build up enough power to be on equal footing with end boss of the chapter, allowing you and other party members to take them down and move on to the next phase of the quest. After you've taken out enemy encampments, raided small dungeons, and beaten mini-bosses over the 5 in-game days, the chapter's boss will come calling, forcing a confrontation. These battles are hectic, blending elements of bullet hell games with dynamic and over-the-top boss encounters. Even with a fully decked-out character, the chapter-ending boss encounters will test your reflexes and the mastery of your character's skills. The cast of heroes, and how their unique skills and personalities add flavor to their adventures is really impressive and stand out in this genre. Meet Your Maker takes place in a Mad Max-like post-apocalyptic world. Divided into 2 parts, you'll spend your time either assaulting player-made bases to steal their genetic material, or building your own deadly fortresses of destruction for your peers to assault. Player-led dungeon creators aren't new, Mario Maker being a popular example, but Meet Your Maker's Doom-like first-person shooting perspective downright evil traps set it apart. As the attacking player, you'll pick from a list of outposts randomly selected from the community across 3 difficulties, each of which differ wildly in their average quality and structure. Because building bases is an expensive hobby, you'll need to spend most of your time exploring the levels of your fellow creators to amass the resources required to level up your arsenal. Luckily, doing so is a ton of fun, not only because grappling around as you dodge traps and fight off mutants feels great, but because you'll likely never play the same stage twice. Meet Your Maker can also be played in glorious co-op in any of its modes, whether it's building your own levels together or storming someone else's. Adventuring is a markedly different experience, since adding another player carries few drawbacks and has plenty of advantages. Meet Your Maker is an awesome action game that beautifully executes on a terrific concept. Hellcard is a multiplayer deck-building roguelite. Groups of up to 3 players can team up to take on levels of a dungeon and cooperate with simultaneous turns. One of the defining features of Hellcard is the focus on multiplayer. Players can team up with any combination of the 3 classes either by inviting friends or through matchmaking. There is also the option for solo play, with semi-controlled semi-bot teammates. Hellcard also separates itself from the roguelike pack with its unique combat system. Player characters are stationary within a circle and enemies in the area of their slice will attack them first. Enemies will focus a player based on who is closest, and allies can assist each other by providing buffs and comboing abilities. Hellcard turns are much more complex than in similar card games. You usually are able to play 3 cards per turn, and choosing targets for each one gives you plenty of non-obvious choices, and it feels great when, after puzzling over a bad situation for 2 minutes, you figure out a way to avoid taking any damage. There are several instances of unnecessary randomness that Magic the Gathering style games don't usually have, but overall it feels more fair than those games. Hellcard gives a unique opportunity of playing with friends in the co-op mode as well, which is an entirely new layer to its replayability. Hellcard offers a large number of upgrades for players to unlock to change and vary the experience as they play through the game. In Smalland, your goal is, as the title suggests, you have to survive the wilds. In the wild, you'll be facing giant creatures such as grasshoppers, ants, bugs, and other insects. At the same time, you have to build your own base and do your best to survive in a harsh, unforgiving world. Despite the game's cute and cartoony art style, Smalland is actually quite challenging. This is a breath of fresh air considering how a lot of survival games these days suffer from a complete lack of challenge. The survival mechanics in Smalland follow that of a standard survival game. You collect resources, craft tools to make resource gathering easier, collect even more resources, build a base, and more. As for the combat, Smalland has a somewhat Souls-like style of combat where you attack your enemy and dodge out of harm's way whenever possible. Every action you make also consumes stamina, so stamina management plays a key role during enemy encounters. Unfortunately, the game is not perfect by any means. There are still a lot of improvements that the developers, Merge Games, can still work on before they fully release the game. You can play alongside with up to 10 players in multiplayer and explore, build, and fight together as a team. Interestingly, even if you play the game solo, the world won't feel empty as there are lots of stuff to discover and NPCs to interact with. It's really cool considering it's still an early access title. Set several years after The Forest, Sons of the Forest challenges you to survive and uncover new mysteries on an island guided by your GPS system. Sons of the Forest takes everything its predecessor did well and does it a little bit better. Exploring a huge, beautiful, deadly island through the changing seasons is a treat on its own. The new base building mechanics could entertain you for days without ever touching the main story. The island is full of weird, feral mud-crusted cannibals and mutated cave monsters. It's these creatures who create Sons of the Forest's real survival loop. Every run-in with the cannibals begins with a tense standoff, and many will choose not to fight, especially if they're alone and you don't act afraid of them. Their AI has definitely gotten a significant upgrade since The Forest, with improved stealth, more advanced social dynamics, and more varied group behavior. This game does take a lot of pain out of the usual survival stuff. No punching tree trunks to get crafting resources, no scrabbling around for a sustainable food and water supply. It feels counterintuitive to have a survival game where survival is actually pretty easy, but this creative decision creates space for a wider focus on exploration. There's a lot of weirdness in the world, that just begs for more investigation, and there's a strong horror element to these deeper explorations as well. Demonologist is a co-op horror game that can be played with at least 1 and up to 4 players. Your goal is to identify the type of evil spirit in cursed places and exorcise it using your equipment, either alone or with your team. A lot of survival horror video games base their scariness around the notion of player isolation. Games like Demonologist deftly meld first-person horror storytelling with co-op gameplay where the teamwork of player groups is tested by terror. The core multiplayer gameplay loop of missions in Phasmophobia and Demonologist are broadly the same. Players meet in a small hub world and choose one of several possible missions maps, and equip useful items such as cameras, electromagnetic scanners, scenes tools, or protective talismans. Upon starting a mission, players explore a haunted house and try to identify the paranormal entity haunting it based on its observed characteristics. Demonologist has a more gothic and occult feel than Phasmophobia. Demonologist gives the haunted house investigation co-op gameplay introduced by Phasmophobia some fun new twists, with creepy gothic-style maps, new kinds of spirits, and new gameplay mechanics such as detecting ectoplasm or exorcising spirits. Simplicity is one of Minecraft Legends' greatest strengths. Evil piglins from the Nether are invading, because that's what evil piglins do, and it's your job to build up the forces needed to drive them back. You'll do that by exploring a procedurally generated continent for resources, allies, and secrets to discover, destroying piglin bases and defending friendly settlements from the invaders as you do. There are no levels, and the minimalistic story is mostly just cutscenes announcing the arrival of larger piglin forces. Once you've cleared all the piglins out, victory is yours, and you can start another run from scratch on a brand new map. There's a handful of interesting unit types, each with a very clear niche that they fill. The piglin army will attack a settlement most nights, with each new assault highlighted on the world map. Minecraft Legends is fun solo, but it excels in multiplayer. The entire campaign can be played in co-op with up to 3 other friends, where resources are split but everyone has full autonomy to act independently. Dividing tasks like resource gathering, base building, and combat enemies many frustrations, and it's just a lot of fun to charge into battle with your allies. It's the best way to play, and sharing the elation of victory with friends doesn't get old. Minecraft Legends is an engaging strategy game that does a great job streamlining a notoriously complex genre, without sacrificing the ever-important element of choice and consequence. In Dead Island 2, the sparks fly in such a way that no other zombie game can keep up. But fortunately the game has more to offer than just drastic violence. Dead Island 2 is ironically no longer set on an island, but in sunny Los Angeles. To begin with, you choose one of 6 characters. The characters cannot be adjusted, but they are fully voiced and comment on what is happening regularly, which creates atmosphere. They also differ in their character stats and basic traits. For example, one character can block particularly well, while another moves faster, has more endurance or regenerates faster. And of course you can play Dead Island 2 in co-op again, this time up to 3 players are possible. The game does not consist of one huge map, but of several demarcated areas, some of which are larger and others smaller. The Hollywood postcard mood is well done, the fights really fly, and the feel of the game is pleasantly reminiscent of the first part. Of course, Dying Light has significantly developed the whole zombie formula with fast chases, dynamic open world and cool climbing mechanics, but whether fans of Dead Island need such features at all is a completely different matter. Dead Island 2nd of May not be a work of the century, but the first few hours definitely made you want more. Dead Island 2 seems to be a great sequel of the predecessor. Redfall is very different to the studio's other games and initially feels a lot more conventional. In a game all about vampire slaying, it's pretty important that killing your blood-feasting foes feels like an event. That's exactly what Arcane Austin has done with Redfall. It's an open-world shooter set in modern-day Massachusetts, filled with gothic small-town vibes, fanged horrors, and a buffet of activity types. A freely explored map with safe houses, enemy camps, side errands, and tier-graded loot. The island town of Redfall has clever environment design that's engineered to complement your skills. The enemy AI is there to be toyed with, allowing you to bait your foes into traps. And every second room you enter will feel staged to tell a story. There are multiple safe houses to unlock, each of which becomes an ammunition stockpile and fast travel location. There are activities which help pull neighborhoods back from full vampire infestation, such as wiping out cultist rallies or preventing a powerful creature emerging from its blood amber cocoon. Then there are errand-like side quests that appear to be peppered with arcane Easter eggs, such as one where you head off to find whiskey and cigars. Stealth is a component of Redfall, but it adheres to a very different rulebook than that used by Dishonored. Redfall is a promising and fresh blood for open-world shooters. This game will shine in co-op mode where you go on a hunt with your friends. Diablo 4 is absolutely crammed with story, content, beauty, character customization, and so much more. Relative to previous games in the series, you'll spend a lot of time watching cutscenes of both the cinematic and in-game variety. Diablo 4 is more open world than ever, and Blizzard's implementation works well. But you are heartily encouraged to explore the areas you do belong in, as you'll earn renown for discovering new areas, picking up and completing side quests, and more. The more renown you tally, the better the tangible rewards get, notably in the form of skill points. Exploring both towns and the open fields of combat alike will yield frequent blue exclamation marks on your map, designating another side quest. The layers here run both wide and deep, again making Diablo 4 feel like an extremely content-rich experience. Ultimately, Diablo 4 feels like a massively plussed-up version of Diablo 2, which is the best-case scenario for it. Regardless, this is going to be a huge game by any definition. The initial campaign projects out to about 50 hours based on the time you can spend in Act 1, plus the endgame stuff Blizzard has specifically focused on, the opportunities to play as different classes and roll different builds within the same class. Diablo 4 looks really promising. Sure, it will be only the beginning of this service game when it launches in 2023. But there are many promises and hopes that we have regarding this game. Let's hope that Blizzard won't disappoint us this time.